Hello friends, welcome to another module of this program. In this module we will talk about what are client-side attacks. So first of all, let's understand what are sessions and what are cookies. So cookie is a packet of information sent from the server to the client, means sent from the server to the user and then sent back to the server each time it is accessed by the user. Cookies are transferred between server and user according to HTTP. Cookies can also be thought of as a ticket used to identify clients and their orders. Cookies are text files stored on the client computer and they are kept for various information tracking purposes. Server script sends a set of cookies to the browser, for example name, age or identification number, etc. The browser stores this information on a local machine for future use. When next time browser sends any request to web server, then it sends those cookies information to the server and server use that information to identify the user. Also, one of the best advantage of cookies is their persistence. When a cookie is set on the client's browser or on the user's browser, it can persist for days, months or years. This makes it easier to save user preferences and visit information. The cookies are stored on the client's hard disk, so if the server crashes, the cookies are still available. And they not only remember which website you have been to, they also remember the information about forms. They can fill out the address forms quick and efficient. Most online shopping websites allow the cookies for the address and email information, but they make you fill out your credit card information each time, because over there cookies are not saved. Now let's talk about what are sessions. You can store user information like username, item selected, etc. in the server side for later use using PHP sessions. Sessions work by creating a UID, that is unique identification, for each visitor and storing variables based on this UID. The UID is either stored in a cookie or is propagated in the URL. A session creates a file in a temporary directory on the server where registered sessions variables and their values are stored. This data will be available to all pages on the site during that website. A session ends when the user closes the browser or after leaving the site. The server will terminate the session after a predetermined period of time, commonly 30 minutes duration. One of the biggest advantage of session is that we can store any kind of object in it. Example, database, dataset, etc. By using session, we don't need to worry about data collapse because it stores every client data separately. Session is secure and transparent from the user. Now, let's see our first attack, and that is session fixation attack. It is an attack that permits an attacker to hijack a valid user session. That's why this attack is also known as session hijacking. The attack explores a limitation in the way the web application manages the session ID, more specifically the vulnerable web application. When authenticating a user, it doesn't assign a new session ID, making it possible to use an existing session ID. The attack consists of obtaining a valid session ID, example, by connecting to the application, inducing a user to authenticate himself with that session ID, and then hijacking the user validated session, means which has been validated by the user by the client by the knowledge of use session ID. The attacker must provide a legitimate web application session ID and try to make the victim's browser use it. So this is how we perform session hijacking. Let's see an example for the same in a testing environment. So these are some of the most common techniques. Session token in the URL argument. The session ID is sent to the victim in a hyperlink and the victim accesses the site through the malicious URL. Session token in a hidden form field. In this method, what happens? The victim must be tricked to authenticate in the target web server using a login form developed for the attacker. The form could be hosted in the evil web server or directly in HTML formatted email. That's another way. The third way is session ID in a cookie. HTTP header response. This method explores the server response to fix the session ID in the victim's browser, including the parameter set cookie in the HTTP header response. The attacker is able to insert the value of session ID in the cookie and send it to the victim's browser. Now, let's see an example for the same in our testing environment. So, thank you for watching this tutorial.